everyone, welcome back to the College Unplugged podcast. I'm Ashley Marchianti.
And I'm Lexi White.
And today we are joined with
Michael Borelli.
And we're going to be asking Michael questions on his opinion with the difference between living on campus in a dorm and living off campus in a house. So, Michael, what was your biggest adjustment moving into a dorm versus a house?
So my biggest adjustment was freshman year. I lived in Roncalli Hall, and I was in a forced triple. I had two other roommates, and back home I only lived in a room, and now I only live in a room by myself. So it was a big adjustment splitting everything up between two other people, whether it was closet space or food or space just for my clothes.
Yeah, I agree. Freshman year, I lived in Seton and I lived in a triple as well, and it was very hard to find space for anything within that room because it was split between 3 different girls.
Which living situation felt more comfortable overall and why?
I would definitely say my everything after freshman year. Sophomore year, I got very lucky in the lottery system, and I lived in Versati. And when I lived in Versati, I did have my own room, and along with my own room, we obviously had a bathroom and a kitchen, so that was a breath of fresh air. Then I moved off campus junior year and had my own room and lived in a house. Senior year, once again, I'm now in a different house with my own room. So I'd probably say everything after freshman year.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't love living in... Me and Lexi lived in North, by the way, for the people listening. But I didn't love living in North, but it was definitely better than freshman year. I liked it, but 12 girls still.
12 girls is a lot.
Yeah. 2 bathrooms, 12 girls.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Compared to living in a house and living in a dorm, how much privacy did you have in the dorm compared to the house?
Well, there definitely was little privacy in a dorm because my freshman year dorm, it was just one room. It was one cubicle, so there wasn't much privacy at all. Just about any time I was in my room, someone else was. And if I was the only one in my room, it was only for a little bit because one of my roommates would usually come back. But obviously now it's a lot more different because I can just walk in my room and close my door and be alone and have some time to myself.
Did you find that you met more people when you lived in the dorms than living off campus in a house?
I'd probably say, yeah, I think I met more people living in a dorm because, when I got to college, I was the only person in my school that went to Sacred Heart, so I didn't really know anyone. And a lot of people were in the same position. I feel like when you're a freshman going to college, you're very eager to meet people, and so are my roommates. So when we first got to Sacred Heart, we didn't really spend much time in the dorm. We spent most of our time walking around campus and meeting new people. And I'd say versus now, being a senior, I already have a solidified group of people I've been hanging out and that I've known since just about freshman year.
Nice.
Did living in a house make you feel more isolated or more independent?
I'd probably say a mix of both, but I feel like the isolated part isn't much of an insult to it.
I think it's more of because you're just not on campus anymore. Well, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, being isolated off campus. I'd say junior year I felt very isolated off campus because junior year I was late to housing and I ended up living in Trumbull and there was no one around us that were actual Sacred Heart students. All the people living around us were residential Trumbull people versus now living right off of Old Town Road. It's all surrounded by college kids, but I definitely say freshman, sophomore year, you're on the campus. I mean, Roncalli was definitely across the street, which was a little rough, but you were still around all college students. But sophomore year, living in Versati, you were right smack in the middle, so it was definitely a big transition from sophomore year to junior year and feeling like that isolation, I'd say.
So living in a house for 2 years now, what responsibilities have increased?
I'd say just about all of them. My freshman year, I was privileged with the luxury of having my laundry done for me through the school. And now I don't do that. I mean, I'm in control of my...
You don't do your laundry?
Yeah, well, no, I do my laundry now, obviously. I cook my own meals now. I didn't really know how to cook until last year, but I like that. I like cooking a lot more. Um, I feel like I'm in like total control of like I don't know like my entire life, like my whole daily routine, like whether it's driving to the gym or driving to the class.
So would you say moving back home, you're gonna feel like your responsibilities are like decreasing, or
Yeah,
like maybe less independent?
I'd probably say so because like once I go home, like it's usually home cooked meals. Like my mom still does my laundry and like schedules all my appointments. So I definitely
Are you
would say-
gonna enjoy that? I personally, I'm not excited to be living back at home.
Yeah, no,
I like to be by myself, and not by myself, but living on my own.
Yeah, I mean it has its pros and cons. I mean, like my mom just made me a dentist appointment next week, which I mean I would have never done. So I mean, I think it has its pros and cons. There's some good things, there's some bad, but it's a decent mix.
Did transportation become an issue when living in a house?
Like from campus, maybe like you, like driving there. Like personally, I think like the transportation aspect, going to class, I would say like obviously when I lived on campus, I was like usually always on time for class because I was like right there. But living off campus, it's like harder to time things out accordingly because there's traffic or you don't live so close or
Yeah, I mean, when I'd say I was off campus, like the first day of classes, the first like week of classes was tough because all the traffic, and I didn't really know when to plan on to leave. Like usually, I would roll out of bed, freshman and sophomore year, and just walk to class in about 5 minutes. But then once I had my own car and being about 2 miles off campus, I was leaving closer to 20 to 30 minutes. Just to
especially
get
with
to
the
class on
parking.
time.
Oh
Yeah,
my
especially with
god.
the lack of parking.
Yeah, please fix your parking, whoever is listening to this. If you had to choose again, would you, like, as a freshman, I feel like obviously as a freshman, like when I lived in Seton, I would have preferred to live in like Mother Teresa or like the nicer ones, but like now that it's passed, I feel like I enjoyed my experience there. But if you had to choose again, would you pick a different dorm or where you are living and why?
I mean, 100%. I would rather live in a different dorm. I mean, I lived in Roncalli. It was widely known as the worst dorm on campus.
Yeah.
It was across the street from everything. The door to get over to the other side, to even if you wanted to meet new people and like walk to the other side of your hall, the doors were locked. So I think it was hard to meet people within my own dorm. The only people I really was friends with in my own dorm was my two roommates, and then when my buddy transferred here. So I mean, I would have much rather lived in Seton or Merton or literally any other freshman dorm, because I feel like anytime I went to see any of my friends that were in Seton, like it was much more like lively. Everyone was outside doing something or talking to someone. Like doors were open, people were always socializing. And then I'd go back to Roncalli, and it was like a ghost town.
Yeah. I lived in Seton, so I got the experience of
Yeah, me
everyone.
too, for 5 days.
Yeah, it was I mean, it definitely wasn't ideal in the sense of like was it clean? No. Was it like disgusting? Yeah, but I feel like that's every dorm, so I can't really complain. I mean, besides like Mother Teresa and all that stuff, but it was a lot of fun in the sense of like you would walk outside your room and there would be like people in the halls, or like the doors like you said were always open and people were always like doing things in front of Seton, and it also helped that Merton was right across the way. So you met people even going into Merton. And for my last question, would you recommend dorm living in the earlier years of college rather than a house?
Well, I mean, obviously, I feel like living in a dorm is essential for your own college experience. I feel like going to college, you have to live with, like, being in a little room with other people that you don't know. I mean, one of the main things about college is stepping out of your comfort zone. And I feel like living in a room with either people you don't know or people that you met through social media is still something that is a crazy adjustment, because at the end of the day, you don't really know how these people live. But I think it's essential because it's the best way to meet people as well. Like I said before, when we moved into my dorm freshman year, me and my roommates just spent like our first few days just walking around the campus and meeting new people. Like we would find new people, we'd meet them, we'd hang out in different people's dorms. And I think it's vital for any college experience. But then obviously for the later half of college, living in a house is much more applicable, whether in every single living category.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense having to live in dorms freshman and sophomore year, because you're still like finding your friend group and like meeting people. And then once you have the option to live in a house, you kind of already have that friend group formed. And even if you don't, like, you can still obviously like meet people. And yeah.
I agree.
Well, Michael, thanks so much for being on our podcast.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. See you guys next episode. And yeah. Bye.